Hello and welcome to 3 Minute Gaming. I'm Nathan, and today I'm going to tell you if this game's their time and bandwidth.
Today's game is Slot Shots Pinball Ultimate. Slot Shots Pinball is back with 13 tables, some old and some new. Is this truly the ultimate indie pinball collection? Let's find out. Slot Shots Pinball Ultimate is a collection of pinball tables containing new tables as well as revised and tweaked versions of older tables from their previous game, which I have already reviewed. And like that review, I'm going to cover each table in brief, starting with the two that released on the old platform after I reviewed it. Kraken's Cove is the first of these, a piratey-themed table focused on several large ramps at the top of the playfield and not a whole lot in between. It is a good table with a very strong aesthetic, but didn't quite grab me in the way the others did, but I still enjoyed it. Dream World has a bit of an identity crisis, as it's a bit of a candy-themed, kind of music-themed, kind of 50s diner-themed, complete with funny musical knockoffs of songs like Earth Angel. It's a fine table, and I like the multiple soundtracks, but of all the tables in this collection, it was definitely the one I came back to the least. Alright, on to the new ones for this Ultimate Collection. First is Ocean Breeze. I personally love ocean-themed tables, and this one's pretty good. It has a whirlpool on the side to hit, as well as an interesting lower-level spinner, and a ramp that takes you to the top with a bunch of extra bumpers. I also liked how all of the various ramps were water slides. That was cute. Tombkeeper Manor is my least favorite of the new ones, which is weird because I think it's actually pretty fun to play. It just doesn't have a lot going on in terms of stuff to do. The house in the middle is your primary point of interaction, but the center of the playfield is always weirdly empty and less engaged in an event. I also wasn't huge on its aesthetic. Mystic Ballistic I first didn't like because its colors were too bright, but after talking to the dev, they did adjust the table's lighting, and now it's actually one of my favorites. It's got a jungle/Central America theme going on, and involves moving this big tree statue up and down to drop your ball into a lower area full of a spinning bumper. It's pretty cool. Dracula's Pawn is my favorite out of all of these new ones, and in my opinion, it's the best table pin blends ever made. The theme is strong, being gothic vampire horror with some Castlevania nods, but more importantly, it has a ton of fun mechanics, with a bunch of flippers, an easy to access higher playing field, and an excellently placed ramp on the right. And lastly, we have Neon Knights Ultra, the latest in their cyberpunk style tables, and it is quite good. It has 4 flippers, with 2 extras in lieu of gutters, which leads to some interesting strategy, and the multiple upper play fields are always a treat. Okay, there actually is one more. They did include Neon Knights, the original they made, and it's actually not that bad of a table, it's just aesthetics look a lot dated. Across these tables, there's individual leaderboards, which is just standard 3-ball mode. All the tables also have pretty high playtime, as their difficulty's fairly easy, meaning even if you're a beginner, you can have a lot of fun. And I'll say more in the pros and cons. Suffice to say, this is a bunch of pinball tables that all have slot machine mechanics baked in, with a whole variety of themes and different layouts. So what do I like about Slot Shots Pinball Ultimate? Well, I was surprised how good the physics are for an indie pinball game. Like the previous game, I'll put the physics not quite as good as, say, Zachary, but certainly on par with something like Pinball FX. It's a bit arcadey, but gels well with the table design. Additionally, as mentioned, the tables strike a great difficulty balance. They're easy with very clear and strong objectives that make them great for picking up and playing. And lastly, speaking of the tables in general, there are a lot, and only 1 or 2 would I consider duds. Even the weakest ones are still fun to play, and I appreciate the original table themes across the board that make the whole collection feel distinct. When it comes to the bad, the way the leaderboards are implemented is still pretty crappy, in that you have to manually upload your score after a run, and you can't view the leaderboards until after completing a run. Additionally, it does like a lot of modes and features usually common in pinball games these days. Stuff like a timed mode, or being able to up the ball count, stuff like that. It doesn't make the game less fun, but I did kind of miss the options for variety. And lastly, it should be mentioned that this is a virtual pinball table that does not have cabinet mode. I have spoken with the dev about this, and they're very aware that this is a much wanted feature, but if you're like me and have one of those virtual pinball tables, getting this to work on that's going to be a bit of a trick. As you know, I rate games here on a 3-point scale: must play, maybe consider, and don't bother. And if you enjoy digital pinball, I think you should be playing Slot Shots Pinball Ultimate. Considering how Pinball FX is trying to fleece its fans these days, and most indie pinball is honestly really bad, Slot Shots manages to punch high above its weight class in terms of being both a great value as well as having some excellently designed tables and physics. I can fully recommend it to anyone who fancies themselves a pinball wizard. That's all I have for you today. Thank you so much for watching. If you played Slot Shots Pinball, do you enjoy digital pinball? Please let me know in the comments. And if you do love pinball, be sure to show indie devs some love and check this one out.